And so welcome everybody to this live Zoom session, which is hosted by the Galilee Marathon Swimming Association. My name is Guy Cohen, and together with Kfir Pravda, Kfir, say hello.
Hello.
Everybody sees you. We will be your hosts tonight, or this evening, or this afternoon, wherever you are. And here's a short introduction about Chloe McCardel, for those of you who don't know her. Chloe is from Melbourne, Australia. For many, Chloe is an icon of marathon swimming. Her highly contagious joy and smiles make her unbelievable accomplishments look so easy. Chloe is a world record holder for the longest unassisted ocean swim. She is an International Swimming Hall of Fame honoree, and so far, Chloe has swam the English Channel an astonishing 33 times. And that could well be changing by tomorrow evening. Chloe is joining us from Hythe, Kent, where she is just a couple of laps away from overtaking the men's record for the most English Channel crossings. Thank you for joining us for this GMSA session of Dryland Conversations. Chloe, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us, first of all. And there are so many people who are joining us from all over the world. I see here, here's somebody, just a friend of ours who joined in from San Francisco. I see other people from Europe. Hi, Levi. And of course, our local community here in Israel. Kfir, can you take it from here?
Yeah, so I have a question for you. Because, you know, we're in a kind of a culture that we're constantly valuing success. But when I read about you, about your experience, it wasn't that easy. You had several cases that you were trying crazy feats that did not really succeed.
Yeah.
And, you know, as I said, people don't really like to talk about it. But what I wanted to hear from you is, how was that for you? How was this experience? What did you learn from that?
So that's a really interesting question. You'd think I get asked this a lot, but I don't. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share, and thank you for the wonderful introduction, Guy. So I got into marathon swimming because I wanted to be the best in the world at something. And then I tried triathlon, and then I ran a marathon, and I found marathon swimming, and I just fell in the love with the joy of the freedom of having no lines, no clock. You don't necessarily have to race with marathon swimming, and the connection with nature. So I just had this, I guess, innate bond with this amazing sport. And I wanted to really be the best in the world at this particular sport. I think that marathon swimming found me. I don't think that I just stumbled across it. So to be the best in the world, it's something you're going to have to set really high standards. You're going to have to look at what other people have done and try and surpass that. And if you want to achieve something in like in marathon swimming or in any area of your life, then it's going to be hard. So I've picked really difficult goals. I've picked, goals which were considered impossible. For example, when I was trying the triple crossing originally in 2011, no one had swum a triple crossing English Channel in 20 years in the English Channel. Like, it was just, there was no recent history. People were not getting anywhere near it. So I guess that my mentality is that I really wanted to go to the next level. And to do that, I knew I had to put my body on the line. I had to push myself to like a mental place where I'd never been before. So, when I'd done my double crossing of the English Channel, I became one of 23 people in history to have ever achieved that. And then when I wanted to complete the triple crossing, it's a whole new level. And I was given advice that doing a double crossing is 8 times as hard as doing a single crossing by someone who'd done a double crossing before me and Cleveland. And she said that the way that had worked for her and others is to think of the first crossing as a warm-up, and then the second crossing is actually when you start that's when you start your channel swim. And so that's how I got into marathon swimming. Mentality is like straight, I'm going, like, I want to be the best. What do I need to do to get there? And I knew that I was going to take the hard route for me. I knew that for me, doing a single crossing in the English Channel and going home wouldn't feel like I'd achieved something great for me from where I was at. So I did do competitive swimming as a teenager, but I was never that great. Like I wasn't on track to even make, you know, the top 20 in Australia or even qualify for the Olympics. So I had some talent and ability, but not a huge amount. So I knew I was setting myself a really hard task, and I knew it was going to be a stretch, and I've failed spectacularly along the way. First attempt at triple crossing in 2011 at the English Channel. I did 1.5 crossings, so didn't even finish the double crossing, even though I'd done a double the year before. I was pulled out and sent straight to ICU in Canterbury Hospital in England with a core temperature of 28 and a condition called swimming-induced pulmonary edema, when there's fluid in your lungs, basically because your heart is overloaded with fluid, has to push the fluid somewhere. So you're basically drowning in your own fluid to form of heart failure. So, you know, I've been in ICU. I've failed triple crossings in the English Channel on 2 occasions, 2011, 2012, and it was really hard. And that they were my first really big failures of setting these goals for myself, believing that I could achieve it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have set the goal and invested so much time, energy, and created a support team around me and the financial, you know, effort needed to get all these things off the ground. So when you believe that you can achieve something and then you fall short, and sometimes I've fallen really short, like spectacularly lower than I believed I could achieve on any one day. It's it's really hard because, at least for me, I have like a sense of self-concept that I see myself as in the future. I visualize that success. I visualize me having achieved triple crossing, and to get pulled out of the water and to not achieve that. And each time, you never know if there's ever going to be another opportunity in your lifetime. You can never guarantee there is. So it is always a possibility. If you fail a huge marathon swim, you may never come around again. So the first few big failures for me was super hard. I didn't handle it that well. Like I really internalized it. And I think that one of the hard things for me is that other people didn't really celebrate my swims, because I think they thought that, well, I wanted to achieve a triple crossing. For example, in 2012, I achieved a double, and you know what? No one really, like back home in Australia, I don't mean online, because marathon swims are awesome and supportive, but like my network back home didn't really celebrate that I'd swum a double crossing of the English Channel. So it was as like that it wasn't even a valid swim. It was like there was nothing to celebrate. Or maybe they didn't want to remind me that I hadn't actually achieved the triple crossing, even though I was successful in a double crossing in 2012. So yeah, it's been some hard years. I kind of handle it a bit better now. I put things in perspective a little bit. At the end of the day, marathon swimming is just swimming. It's not my whole entire life. And maybe it was a few years ago, back in 2011, 2012, and 2013, when I tried to swim between Cuba and the USA, and that ended in me screaming and in pain and wanting to die on the boat because of intoxication from irukandji jellyfish. So back then, I didn't really have a career outside swimming. I didn't run my own business. I wasn't studying at that point, so I didn't really have anything else. And from that point on, I really branched out into coaching, and I made a whole life for myself outside being a marathon swimmer. And so if I failed my major marathon swim in those years, I had other successes, other goals that I was kicking outside. So that was like one sort of coping strategy I had. But there's been some really hard years between 2011 and 2013. I basically failed everything I was trying to achieve. So it was 3 years of not achieving things and then not having much of a life outside swimming as well. So it wasn't a good mix.
Where did you get the drive to keep on trying? I mean, you're telling a story which sounds very, you know, harsh, very difficult to just keep going with these failures one after the other. How did you manage to just keep going? And especially, I mean, how do you connect to marathon swimming in general? Because we all know, most of us are, you know, doing this sport and know how difficult it is, each and every one of these challenges. And if you have one failure, usually it's like, you know, you're just too much and really difficult to just pick up yourself and keep going. And you're telling a very, you know, these stories about one failure and another one. And how did you just keep going? I mean, with all this incredible career that you have now, looking back.
I think the one thing that may stand out in my case is that I never saw my identity as being a failure. So the swim failed, the event failed, the outcome was not what I thought it would be, but I myself didn't take on the identity of being a failure. Therefore, it wasn't like I was beating myself up that, oh, I really shouldn't have set a high goal, I wasn't good enough. The swim result, as in unsuccessful result, just showed what I kind of thought deep down was that I'm not good enough, or I wasn't ready, or that the goal's too big for me. So I think that some swimmers get a bit disheartened, disillusioned when they don't succeed, and they take it really personally and they internalize that, and the inner critic really comes out. Whereas for me, I externalized it and I said, well, look, I may have in some way contributed to the outcome, but the outcome isn't me. I myself am not a failure. And I didn't really deep dive into that place, but I did go to some not so great places. I just didn't completely adopt that persona. And therefore, if I myself wasn't a failure, then it is possible that I can achieve something. So then it still gave me opportunity to believe that I could be successful. And I had some great swims. For example, even though 2011 to 2013, I didn't achieve any of my big goals, you go back 1 year to 2010, I think early June, I won the Manhattan Island Marathon, which they used to call MIMS. It used to be once a year, and pretty much all the best ultra distance swimmers went and raced it. And I beat all the men and the women in that year. And then 6 weeks later, I swam a double crossing of the English Channel in 21 hours 48. So I knew I was very capable. It's not like I didn't think I was setting unrealistic goals for my ability and my commitment. It was just that those goals on those particular days, I wasn't able to execute. And in marathon swimming, there's so many variables, and you can be, I'm a coach as well, so I've looked at this from so many different angles. You can have two swimmers where they swim the English Channel on 2 different days, one after another, and you've got the strongest swimmer who fails the swim, and then you've got a quote unquote weaker or slower swimmer, and they're successful in their swim, and you're like, how did that even happen? Sometimes there's that mental aspect, but if you put that aside, some swimmers just get shit days. And, the forecast may actually be quite good, and things change, and, the pilots weren't expecting it, the swimmer wasn't expecting it. No one can control the weather in the English Channel or, anywhere in any body of the water. So that's way, height, direction, tide, you kind of can predict in advance. There's some sort of sense of forecasting there, but there's so much out of your control. And also it's something that swimmers don't always talk about, but there's human elements in piloting, for example, for ultramarathon swims. When you hire a support boat, you're hiring humans, and humans are fallible. Sometimes humans make mistakes. Sometimes swimmers make mistakes. They don't prepare well enough. They don't follow good advice. Sometimes pilots just don't do a good job. Sometimes they put swimmers out on days when they shouldn't put them out. And I'm not going to call out particular pilots, but I am going to say that the first pilot I swam the English Channel with, I never swam with again, and I never swam with that association ever again. So all that detail is on historical record, and you can look at that yourself. But it just shows that, I can go from 1 year failing the English Channel. So the first year of English Channel swimming, 2009, I was trying a double crossing, and I was unsuccessful. But then the next year I come back and I'm successful and do it in 21 hours 48. So that's 2 laps. So I'm virtually the same swimmer. The channel was a bit different, but for me, the main difference was the pilots. So sometimes it's the weather, sometimes it's your crew. Sometimes your crew can get sick and they just can't support you as a swimmer. If they're vomiting and you only have one crew and they can't be there for you, or you're just worried about them, it's going to affect your state. So there's just so many variables, and you just got to do your best. I just try not to take it too personally.
Let's relate still to this, starting of your career, or these first years, or let's say the more difficult years. Did you have a big plan at all at that time? Did you see 10 years ahead, or you just went from one challenge to the other? I succeeded this, okay, let's do the other one. I failed this, let's try it again, this kind of way? Or did you have a big plan ahead?
So I started off with this vague idea in my head, and it's still kind of vague. I can't really pinpoint exactly what I mean, but wanting to be the best marathon swimmer in the world.
Okay.
So I started with that. And so my first goal was to swim a double crossing of the English Channel. So I'd never been to England, never swum a single. When I succeeded the second year, so my second attempt at doing that, 2010, I was like, right, I want to do a triple crossing, because I idolized the three people at that time who'd done a triple crossing. So John Erickson, Philip Rush, Alison Streeter, especially Alison Streeter, because she was a woman. So she's the only woman who'd done a triple crossing. And
Yay, Alison. Right.
like, how can you not be in awe of a woman who swam the English Channel 43 times, done a triple crossing, done 3 double crossings? So I'm like, you know, this is 11, 12 years ago, and I'm like a deer in headlights. I think she's absolutely amazing. And so I wanted to be just like them. I wanted to, you know, put my name on that list of someone who'd done triple crossing. But it took me 5 years and 3 attempts to actually execute that. Was extremely difficult, and to the point where I was just over English Channel swimming at the end of 2012. And that's why I went to swim between Cuba and the USA, because it seemed like a big challenge, and it wasn't cold water. And I believe the biggest challenge I had was being in cold water for long periods of time.
Right.
So that leads us to another topic that we were talking internally before while preparing this session. So what's the story with the English Channel? I mean, okay, I can understand you were doing it once, you're doing it twice, doing it 3 times, triple crossing, double crossing, you know, okay. We have in Israel, one of our beaches is called the Cliff, the Tzuk, that we are all swimming there. And when we're preparing this session, we're saying, we have the Cliff, you have the English Channel. What makes this specific location so unique for you? Because at the end of the day, you know, I was listening to how you described the way that you are coping with events that were not as successful as others. And you're basically saying 3 things, right? You're saying, it's not only me, there are things bigger than me. I have other things in my life. I live a more balanced life. And I'm damn good because I've done like all those awesome things before that, right? So you have all those buckets, and then you go again and again and again to the English Channel. You know, I was looking at the videos from these weeks, and I was just like, she's getting out of the water, and she has this nice sign, 33, and that's it. You know, it's like, what the hell is going on here? So why the English Channel, and why are you getting back there? And as you know, it's a historical day today, right? It's the 96 years ago. Gertrude Ederl did her crossing, the first to cross the channel, right? So, and I've read also some of the articles and the things we were talking about women in sport and so on, but I think it's something bigger than that. So what fascinates you so much in the channel?
So originally I went to the English Channel because I wanted to be the best marathon swimmer in the world, and that's where everyone went. So historically, it's where the best ultramarathon swimmers have tested themselves. And you may want to note, if any of you have heard of Dinah Nyad, she tried to cross it on 3 different occasions and never succeeded. So she couldn't successfully get 1 crossing in ever. You can maybe talk about her on one of your calls. So it's where the best go, and there's something magical about the English Channel. So anyone here who's swum in a relay or solo will understand what I mean. I haven't swum obviously in every waterhole in the world. I've swum in quite a few of them, and I can attest from my personal experience that there is nothing like the unpredictable nature of the English Channel, the way things change, they evolve, the challenges, specifically things like the super strong tide, which can really work against you, especially if there's any wind. You've got the dynamics of going through 2 of the world's busiest shipping lanes, going in opposite directions. They're like a highway. You're dodging like mega tankers in the middle of this ocean. Then you've got to try and dodge ferries coming in different directions. I had to change my course 3 days ago for cray pots. I didn't pilot it, but the captain had to change my course for cray pots so that we didn't run into cray pots, and we were moving at 6 miles an hour sidewards because of the tide. And then we had to change the course because the Coast Guard were plucking out refugees in the middle of the course that we were trying to go, which is why it was so hard for me to finish that swim 2 days ago, as well as the tide being stronger than it was supposed to be and the wind being bigger than it was supposed to be. So it was just like a cluster storm at the end, and I really wasn't enjoying it. But that really dynamic, unpredictable and difficult nature of the English Channel is is something that is, for me, quite alluring. And the fact that I know that I can pretty much go out there and swim the channel on any day that any other swimmer can make it. I think I can make it. And not every day. There's obviously some days where it's hurricane level wind, but like I know I can just throw myself at it, and no matter what the channel is taking me, if it's a swimmable day, I will get across. And it's just, I don't know, something special. And I love the history, like Gertrude Edel, Captain Matthew Webb, the amazing Australians that are swimming the English Channel. To know that I can be part of that history it's a privilege, and it's something that I still cherish now, and it never gets old saying that I'm an English Channel swimmer. It never gets old sharing stories about what the channel is like, and every channel swim is so different, and it sounds cliched, but every channel swim is very different. And so I can tell you lots of different stories from different channel swims because they're all so unique. So it's a really special place, and it's a special place in marathon swimming history as well.
Maybe tell us one of the stories about at least one of your most difficult channel crossings, single crossings or double. I know that the triple was very difficult. Maybe you can share a story about one most difficult, and another one which was just like a walk in the park for you. And let me tell you here a secret. There was one day you and me crossed the channel together on the same day. It was a very difficult day, let me tell you, for me. And I actually saw you on a video later on when you finished, and you just laid down on the shore on the French side and said, this was hard. And then I felt relaxed because, okay, if Chloe had a difficult day, then I'm okay,
Was that the day I was like spread out on pebbles like this?
That was the day.
Oh my God,
yes.
I remember that day.
It was a damn hard day for crossing.
I was so happy to be on French shore that day.
Oh yes, I was sure. I was also.
Well done finishing on that day. Yeah, there's some real challenges in the English Channel. Occasionally there's a flat day, like my first swim this season. It was a dream. But for most swims, there's going to be some really tough moments. The hardest swim, I've had some really shockers in the English Channel. The hardest thing, though, was the first year when I was attempting the double crossing in 2009 on the second lap going back to England. The waves, it was like 2-meter waves, so both had force 4-5. I'd been swimming for about 20 hours, and the boat lost me. So it's pitch black. It was, I don't know, about midnight or something. And the boat was looking for sandbars or something. They were distracted, and they had something on their mind. And temporarily, they just left me behind. And I was screaming out, literally, don't leave me behind, please, please, hoping that they could hear me, hoping they could see me in the pitch black. I only had these tiny little lights flashing. And I was genuinely scared that they were going to lose me, and I didn't want to die in the English Channel because no swim's worth dying for. So that's one of the worst experiences. There's been a few. I think I have to write a book to actually get them all down. One of the best experiences, I think, was finishing the triple crossing. So this was in 2015. I've already briefly mentioned I tried a triple crossing. So that's 3 stops, 3 laps, non-stop. 34 kilometers, a crossing, which equals 102 kilometers. It took me 36 hours, 12 minutes. And I went to some really dark places on that third lap, especially at the end of the second lap into the third lap, because that's often where I've been pulled out of English Channel swims when attempting the third crossing. So there's something about the turn of 2, it's finishing the second lap into the third lap. And often it's pitch black. And because we need to swim through nights if you're swimming a 24-hour plus swim, it was my second night, and my core temperature would have been very low, and I probably was hallucinating a little bit, and I was so cold that I counted my strokes one by one because I had to count something to distract my brain because it was so cold. All I could think about was how cold I was, and then I counted to 10,800 strokes one by one. So to swim through that and then to finally finish that triple crossing on French shoreline, which I've been trying to do for 5 years, and the first attempt I ended up in ICU in Canterbury, was just incredible sense of relief to get to France for that second time. and to know that no one had done it 25 years, like it was genuinely for my generation of swimmers, it was groundbreaking, and it was something that no one had been able to achieve. People had wanted to do triples, but hadn't been able to really execute that third crossing, which is super hard. So to kind of crawl, I wasn't even walking at that point. I was just in this really bizarre, not quite there state, just crawling for a long time because the sandbar went out and out and out and out. So I was just like kind of crawling 1 foot water for ages and then kind of standing up at the end. And yeah, there's just a sense of relief. It wasn't joy, it wasn't euphoria, it wasn't excitement, it wasn't happiness, because I just felt like this pressure had lifted off my shoulders from, where it'd been for years, like for 6 years. And it wasn't pressure that anyone else had put on me. It was pressure of my dreams and having really big dreams, having difficult dreams to execute, and living through those failures and then coming back, rebuilding and finally executing it. So that would have to be my happiest. It's not even that happy, but it would have to be my most proudest channel swim.
I would, first of all, I forgot, and I would like to just tell to the audience that if anybody has a question to Chloe, please add it on the chat below, and we can pick it up and just ask her. We don't want to open up all the mics, just to prevent any noise, but please add the question on the chat and we will pick it up and read it out to Chloe so that she can add it. You have one remark here. It's from David Marsh, and you probably know David Marsh from the US, and he's just saying what an inspiration it is to hear you. So David Marsh, welcome. Nice that you're joining us. And one question again about the EC crossings. How far would you go? I mean, do you have a plan?
So my goal this year is to surpass the men's world record. I'm going to be swimming at 2 a.m. British time, which is like, I don't know, 6 or 8 hours from now or something. So then I will equal the men's world record, and then the crossing after that I'll surpass it. So that's my goal for this season. I haven't set a goal for future seasons. I'll definitely be back. I just haven't formulated a plan yet. The English Channel is my spiritual home. Like I belong here. That's what I feel. My address is in Australia, but my heart is in the English Channel. So I'll be back.
Would you think about doing number 44?
Look, if the opportunity arose, I think it would be wonderful, but there's a lot of things that would need to line up in a row to make that happen. And one of the big things is finances. It's very expensive to swim prolific amounts of channel swims. And, I'd like to start a family in the next couple of years. I'm 35. I can't wait forever. So, the channel I think is going to be there for many years. And if that's something that's going to happen, I'm sure it will happen in its own time.
Let's speak about this time, these days and times. How is it, first of all, how do you feel with the COVID situation now in the UK? I know it was kind of difficult to reach, to go out from Australia and reach England this time. Can you tell us about that?
My preparation's been a nightmare. I probably couldn't have constructed a worse preparation if I tried. No, I could have. But I've just had a really bad year. COVID aside, I've had a challenging year, and then adding COVID in, and I feel like I've been on this emotional roller coaster, and I think a few people here may have had similar experiences with, with COVID and the challenges. So I couldn't access a pool for over 2 months, and interval training, for those that follow me on social media, you'll know that interval training is basically what I build my fitness, my strength, and my resilience in. I'm a very big advocate for marathon swimmers doing interval training. So with a clock on a time cycle, doing main sets of like 2 or 3 kilometers or longer occasionally. So to not have that, which is my main preparation base, and to not have the social connection of a coach who knows me well and my normal group of swimmers was really hard in many respects. One of the other things was that I Australians were banned from leaving Australia, still are. I had to apply for a special exemption, and I didn't know if I was going to get it. And it came through only 3 days before my flight was due to leave. So I left Australia in a whirlwind. I wasn't prepared. I came here not having things I needed. And then I also didn't know the whole way through, as soon as COVID hit, I didn't know, just like every other swimmer and administrator and anyone involved in channel swimming, I didn't know if this season was ever going to start. And so I was essentially training for something which may never have started this year. So putting all that, my eggs in the basket of training, preparation, just not even knowing what was going to happen. But I think doing the English Channel for so many years basically prepares you for massive amounts of uncertainty and to be dynamic and just to roll with the waves, so to speak. And all those lessons that I'd learned or been forced to learn along the way really held me in good stead for just hoping for the best, preparing for the worst, and rolling with each punch as it came along. And eventually I got here and I've been getting swims in, and I'm going to do swims as quickly as possible, because there is still a chance when I'm in England here that they could do local lockdowns, because if the infection rate goes up, then the Prime Minister is going to want to lock down areas, or local governments will, because they don't want to contain the spread. So there's still a chance that where I live or where the channel swims happen, they're going to get locked down, or potentially in the French side as well. So one of the things that I've done in channel swimming in my career, people will notice, is that I'm like, every opportunity to take a swim or have a swim, I take. So one year I swam the English Channel 8 times. And like, I was taking swims on massive spring days. I was taking swims. People were not swimming the channel because it was too rough. So I would just keep going, where's an opportunity? How can I make an opportunity happen? I'm not someone who just waits around and hopes for the best and just hopes people will give me support, or hope that people will, open doors for me. I'm constantly out there pushing the envelope. And that's just kind of how I've taken COVID head on. I haven't just gone, oh, well, I'll just take this year off, which some swimmers have done. And some swimmers had more difficult access to training than me. So maybe that was the right decision for them. But for me, I took a much more proactive approach and just gone, I'm going to push and push and push it and hope that everything lines up and just be ready to roll. And I've had great support over the years as well. So I don't want to make out as if I do everything by myself. I've had some wonderful support. So even though marathon swimming, in a way, is a solo sport that you swim each stroke out there yourself, you're always swimming in an ultra marathon swim with a boat, with crew on your boat, and a support team back home. So all those things have made the COVID journey a lot easier.
Okay, so some of the people here have more training related questions. And there are around 2 main topics that we would love to hear how you are dealing with it. One is, what is the ratio of swimming in pool versus open water when you are training for a channel swim or one of those fits?
So a lot of training questions I can only give really general answers to, because it depends on what background you come to when you start marathon swimming, and people's backgrounds are very varied. So for someone like me who had a big pool swimming background, I had to really do a lot of cold swimming, long open water sessions, because I didn't have experience in that area. Whereas if you're someone who just loves dabbling in the sea a lot, didn't grow up, as a teenager doing competitive swimming or being in squads, then someone like that should really focus on doing sessions in the pool, getting their heart rate up with low rest, and really getting fitter and stronger. So I noticed that there's a lot of swimmers, because I'm swimming Dover Harbour a lot while I wait to swim the English Channel, and a lot of solo swimmers are swimming at a very low pace. And I just wonder how much interval training they're doing, because if you do proper interval training over an extended period of time, it's impossible to swim slowly. Like, it's just not going to be your outcome. So I guess my general answer for channel swimming is, like, if you want to swim the English Channel and you can already swim at, say, 2.5 kilometers an hour for 2 hours nonstop, which isn't super fast, but it's strong, then I would suggest the 12 months leading into channel swim, for the first 6 of those 12 months, say 20 to 25 kilometers a week. The last 6 months, say averaging about 35 kilometers a week. And then when the water is cold, so between 12 and 18 Celsius, whenever that is for you, because it's different where you live, for those particular times, really prioritize your cold water swimming and prioritize getting in those longer swims, you know, your 2-hour swims, your 4-hour swims. And I get my swimmers in my program to do at least 4 6-hour swims in 15 Celsius. So it's like 4 English Channel qualifiers, of which 2 of those 4 qualifiers are on back-to-back days. So we run camps, and the camp will be like Saturday 6 hours, Sunday 6 hours. So you know, generally over the course of a year, I would say you'd end up with doing more interval pool training, quality training, but then a good chunk leading into your channel swim, and when the water is really cold is when you get really push that mileage of the open water element when it's cold.
So I have to admit that you've answered 4 of the questions that were asked in one answer, which is great. And then I wanted to ask you another thing. So you mentioned when we prepared a session with you that you have a new program that you wanted to talk about with our audience. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, I thought it would be ready, but it's not right. It's not really ready to launch. So I'm just going to keep working on that. But thank you for offering me that opportunity.
Okay, so
I will say though that I have a solo spot of the English Channel next season and a spot in a relay. Relays are really good for preparing for a future solo swim, which I coach people on. You don't need to be Australian based, even though I'm in Australia most of the year. So if anyone is a little bit interested in that, then next week when I've had time to recover from my swims in the last 2 weeks, then reach out and I can see if it's something that might be of value to you.
So you already swam twice in the last 7 days, I think, or since you were there and since you arrived. When is the next swim? Did you tell us? Do you know when the next swim is?
It's tonight.
It's tonight.
I should be asleep now, but I wanted to be with you guys.
Well, thank you very much for being with us. We will finish at the hour exactly, so you'll have enough time to go to sleep. But maybe some of the people now in the audience can add into the chat and answer the question, what are you going to swim tomorrow? So we know what Chloe is. Let's see what the rest are going to do tomorrow morning. Here's another question about or do you have any tips or ideas for those who are aspiring to cross the channel for the first time? So one answer was join a relay. Any other issues?
Okay, so swimming the English Channel, it's very different from most marathon swims. So what you want to do is link into a local marathon swimming group or local open water group where at least one person has swum the English Channel and just absorb as much information as possible. You can join the Dover Channel Group Facebook site. So that's swimmers who are about to swim this year or the next often are in there, and people who've done it might be in there and give advice. Or you could go and get a professional coach and really increase your chances of success. So that's what I do. I've coached 150 people to swim the English Channel in relays and solos over the last 6 years. So it's something I'm doing for the next few years as well. But you want to get a lot of advice. Don't try and literally do it solo, because there's just so many small things that you may not know about, and you don't even know that you don't know them. So for example, like mouthwash is something that English Channel swimmers use, except for sometimes people come to England, they've got no idea what we're talking about. And it's like, well, did you do your research? Like, you know, the onus is on you to like go out and proactively get help and get mentoring or get proper coaching. So I'm sure if people linked into this call, they're connected to you, Guy and Fer, and they're quite switched on. So it's probably not this particular group who needs that sort of advice. But I speak to a lot of observers and a few pilots, and they tell me every year there's at least a few swimmers who get in the English Channel and they get out either 15 minutes later or 1 hour or 2 hours after the swim start. So that's swim start and they're out at 15 minutes. And 15 minutes, like, nah, can't do it anymore. So you don't want to be one of those sort of people. So go get advice, good advice, either mentoring, which is free, coaching, which is paid, and just listen, absorb, execute it.
Here's another question from Danny. He's once again also about the someone who is training for the English Channel. What advice do you have for someone training for the English Channel? Should I swim in ocean in cold winter rather than pool training? And should I attempt a 25-mile training swim in cold water? Or is it better to swim smaller lengths while training? This is
there's a few questions in there.
You're a coach. You can relate to that, I think. In the best way.
Answering 3 questions at once. My answer to one part of that question is it shouldn't be either or between interval training and open water. They should, ideally, depending on how close you can access open water, they should be a part of your program, both of them on a weekly basis, ongoing. You don't need to swim a 25-mile swim to successfully swim the English Channel. So most of my solo swimmers on my program, and I have a very high success rate, the biggest thing they do, the biggest swimming training they'll do before the channel swim, and they usually do it 4 to 6 weeks out before their due channel swim window, is 2 6-hour swims in cold water. So it's channel qualified temperature. So it's 15.5 Celsius or 60 Fahrenheit. So that's 12 hours of swimming within a 24-hour turnaround. You get a mini break overnight where you can eat, you can rest up a little bit, and then the next morning, bang, you're out there again. So, maybe you want to swim next to a boat, you want that experience of swimming next to a boat and feeding off a boat, and that's great. So what you could do is maybe a 4-hour swim where your crew person who you intend to crew for you for the English Channel, they're there dishing out feeds for you, and you do that 4-hour swim or 6-hour swim next to the boat. You don't need to swim for 25 miles to be able to swim the English Channel. That's the point of swimming the English Channel, is that's your furthest swim. You don't need to train it to do it.
Okay, that's a good advice. Here's another question from Sarah. Sarah is asking about your feeds. That's one question. Can you speak about your feeds during your marathon swims? And there's another question from Sarah, so we don't want to miss that when you answer. On your 2-way crossing, how long do you stay on the beach and what do you do on the beach?
So with my feeds, I feed every 30 minutes, about 30 to 35 grams of carbohydrate liquid every half hour. And then that's about 100 to 150 mils of very warm water to prevent hypothermia kicking in, or managing it if it is already starting to kick in, which it doesn't in singles, but it does in double and triple attempts. So it's got energy in it. I have caffeine occasionally. Maybe once a crossing, I might eat something soft and squishy, never anything hard, never anything spicy, never anything fat, nothing with meat. So like a muffin or a crumpet, something like that. So yeah, that's mainly liquids. Your body absorbs energy better in liquid form. It's more readily absorbed and available, and it also doesn't take blood away from your working muscles, your arms and legs. So if you're eating heavy food while doing a marathon, blood needs to go to your stomach to digest it. So generally, my suggestion would be to stick with liquids unless you're really hungry, and then that's okay, have something solid to eat. Just be clever about what you have while you're having a solid. And then what was the question about the double crossing, sorry?
How long do you stay on the beach and what do you do on the beach in between?
So in the English Channel system, if you're doing multiple crossing attempts, you're allowed up to 10 minutes when you finish a crossing. But that 10 minutes, any time you take, let's say you take 6 minutes, that's added to the next crossing you start. So it goes on to your time. It's not like it's free time. It still will get counted. And I used to stop and kind of take a feed during these multiple crossings. I don't do multiple crossings in the last few years, but back then when I was still doing multiple crossings, I stopped taking any of those 10 minutes because I was no longer creating heat, because I was no longer exercising, and therefore I was getting more prone to hypothermia, not straight away at the moment, but like 2 or 3 hours later, it would then kind of hit me, having not exercised, and also standing on shore rather than keeping on moving, like rather than keeping my muscles moving, just standing still. So I found that it was a really negative experience. So it seems like a good thing. Oh, you can take a rest for 10 minutes, but you're freezing, you're cold, and you want to keep the momentum going, keep the blood moving, keep the warmth, any warmth that you've got left in you, keep going. So the answer is you can take 10 minutes, but I think it's best that people don't.
One thing that I saw when I was looking at the videos of your swims is that you kick a lot. You know, everybody show when we talk with when we are trying to swim, at least let's put it this way, we try to minimize the amount of work that we're doing with our legs, but you kick more than usual. So could you tell us a bit more about that? It's not that usual in our type of swimming.
Yeah, I saw some people arguing about this on my last swim on a thread. I thought, oh, this is brilliant. This is so funny. So I kick too much. It's true. I shouldn't kick as much as I kick. I don't encourage any of my swimmers to kick as much as they do. And if I did, they'd run out of energy and wouldn't finish their crossings. So I don't encourage anyone to kick as much as I kick. But in saying that, having an okay kick is definitely in your advantage because it helps with a higher body position, which means less frontal resistance, which means that you're not like pushing a sinking brick through the water. You're actually more horizontal on the top of the surface. So your kick brings your hips up, your legs up, rather than for people who don't kick, they're going like this through the water and they're getting all this frontal resistance, which means they have to work even harder and their shoulders are working harder. So it's good to have a little bit of a kick just to keep your hips up, keep your legs up generally. But you'll see sometimes when I kick, my whole entire foot has raised above the water line. And at that point, I'm not really actually getting any value. I'm just kicking the air above me. So I don't actually encourage people to kick that much. I just got in the habit of it young. I grew up competitive swimming and our coaches just drilled us to kick hard. And I just listened to my coaches and worked as hard as I could and just developed this kick. But you'll notice that swimmers in 800-meter races kick less than I do across the English Channel. And I mean like the elite swimmers. They don't kick like I kick. Like it doesn't make sense. I'm working on kicking less. It's hard though. It's kind of automatic now.
Fabrice from the audience had another question, which is sometimes a bit overlooked when talking about those huge physical feats, right? And that's the whole mental side. You meditate. How do you prepare for spending so many hours in cold water again and again and again and again?
So there's no quick answer to that. The mental side of it is huge. Basically, if you want something badly enough in life, you'll do anything to get it. And I want to swim the English Channel pretty bad. So it doesn't matter how cold I am, how much pain I am, how shitty the conditions are, sometimes how bizarre the course is I think that part sent me on, or if there's lightning or, you know, I feel like my core temperature's dropping. I just want it that badly. And when you want it, you'll find a way around it. But there are some other little strategies and tips, like from sports psychology that I use. But in essence, think about a mother, right? If her child is underneath a car, she will pick up the back end of a car to save her child. So, there's a way to get through things, and that's just to want it so much that everything else becomes irrelevant.
Do you meditate before swimming?
No.
How do you manage your recovery so quickly? This is a question coming from Graham.
I have some tricks. If you join my coaching program, I'll tell you all about them.
I'm sure many people will join you now. What is your question to the general public? I mean, the general open water swimmers in general, and in these specific days, and times that we are dealing with now. Do you have any special message to them?
Oh, special message. I think that it's really hard right now for a lot of people to plan what marathon swim they're going to have next, or to plan what they're going to do this year or next year, because they may not have access to pools or their local open water spot. And I really feel for people who are struggling right now, whether it's got to do with exercise or whether it's got to do with their personal life or their work. And it may seem like my life is really breezy and easy and I just come to England and just swim laps of the channel, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I have to manage quite a few balls in the air to make it all happen. So my message to you is that there's a lot of uncertainty going on right now. There's a lot of challenges for us all right now. And I think the main thing is just to keep a positive mindset that whatever we're going through now is not going to last forever, even though it's really challenging. And there is light at the other end of the tunnel, and there is France there waiting for us when we get through the very turbulent waves, which a lot of us are riding right now. And I'm in there riding it too. So if you're riding some really shitty, rough 2-meter waves, metaphorically through life, then don't worry, I'm in there too, and we will get to France in our own time.
Phil? I think Fear, we lost Fear.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
So this is a question actually not for me, but for my daughter. I have a 9 years old daughter. And when I went through your feed, I saw that cover of a magazine of a woman athlete. And you wrote a lot about body image for women athletes and how do women athletes present themselves in the media, and what does it entails, and what is the end result of that? So what are your thoughts about that? Because I know that a lot of, especially young girls that are going into sports, they see what it does to them. And it seems it's also something close to your heart as well. So I'm happy to hear, how do you see it?
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that you're bringing this up. It's maybe not a topic that's discussed a lot. I think that women's role in sport is on the rise at the moment. So both in airtime, in media, and also in sponsorship opportunities and other opportunities. So women's sport, I think, at least from what I'm seeing in Australia, around the world, is going in the right direction. But I also think it's disappointing that I think femininity is still portrayed maybe in a very one-dimensional way, whereas female athletes who maybe fit a certain archetype of super slim and certain sort of body features, certain sort of images, are more, say, rewarded by media time and by sponsorship than maybe more diverse sort of athletes. So I guess what I was trying to say was, in that post, it was a post which showed Simone Biles, and I may have pronounced her surname incorrectly, so if I have, I apologize. But she is the most incredible female athlete, gymnast in the world, multiple Olympic gold medal holder. And the picture was her kicking powerfully her leg up. And it just displayed her strength, her power, and the fact that she was unafraid to display really what society calls masculine traits, which is, drive, strength, success, ambition, things like that, which I don't think really should be defined as masculine, but people often associate that. And the way that she can just in that image, there's a juxtaposition, I can't get the word right, between her beautiful femininity, she was doing it in a dress, and then the masculinity of doing this powerful move and being the best female gymnastic athlete in the world. I was just so proud that Vogue, which is a very, it sort of epitomizes one type of femininity above all others in a pedestal. It was great that it was displaying her on the cover, and I really love that. As far as body type issues, there's a lot of people, I think, may realize that female athletes, amateur or just everyday girls, they often fall out of athletics in their teen years and at astonishing rates, and that's not good for their long-term health and outcomes if they're falling out of sport at such a young age, even though in a junior childhood age group they have fairly high participation if they have opportunities. So I think I would like to be an athlete who goes out there and achieves things and does it in a proud way, that I don't feel like I have to conform to certain types of body types or say certain things to be more of a one-dimensional sort of an athlete. I want to show the more breadth of the female experience through sport, and that it's okay not to be a size 6 or a size 8 and, wear bathers and have fat hanging out and, and look pretty shitty with like ruddy hair. And you know what, I can do that and still get the job done and perform perfectly, because if young athletes, female athletes, are seeing women out there, who don't look like they've just walked out of a makeup studio and hair studio and they're still performing at their best, then maybe it's okay for them to go and do sport and not have to wear makeup while they participate in sport. Like I just feel like we still have so much progress to make, even though society I feel is progressing in the right direction.
Well, I'm sure the women in the open water scene are quite strong, and I think maybe already surpassed the men's. Definitely in the English Channel, we see a great example in front of us, and you're an inspiration for us all. Maybe one quick another question: how do you choose your support team, and how is their role for you? How important is their job for you?
I ran my marathon swimming career on a very, very, very small budget. So I basically make a decision, do I trust a person or not? And then if I do, then they can be on my boat. So the girl Caroline who crewed my last swim, I'd never met her before, had one phone conversation with her, but she was referred through someone who I held in high regard, Mel Holland, who swam on the same day as me this year in my first swim, who I've worked with before. So when Mel recommended Caroline, I was like, well, I trust Caroline implicitly because I trust Mel. I think that if you trust your crew and you trust your pilot, then you've got 90% of what you need sorted out, because the rest is just basically passing on messages for what you want to do, the logistical side of it. But if you don't have trust, then everything else goes out the window. So I guess just start with trust.
Okay, terrific. So let's wrap it up here. We promised to finish exactly on the hour so you can go to sleep, right? And let's finish by saying we hope to see you here behind me. You see Galilee, you remember? That's the next marathon. Maybe after 44 you can come here and start counting from zero again. So you're welcome to come and swim whenever. We'll be proud to host you here. And we want to thank you once again for joining us for this Zoom session. It was a great talk. You are an inspiration for us all, and an amazing athlete. And it's really an honor for us to have you here. Really have a great swim tomorrow or tonight, and you can be sure that we will be following you all the way through to the French shore, and good luck with that.
So thank you so much. Lovely chatting to you, and thank you for the invitation. I will come swimming as soon as I can in the Sea of Galilee. Also, could I get a photo of you all in your little screens? Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, sure, of course. Go ahead before Eyal will open up the mics for everybody, so everybody can now just scream and shout and yay and clap your hands.
Okay, ready?
Ready, Eyal?
1.
Hi. Thank you. Hi, good night.
Thank you. Good luck, Chloe. Good luck.
כל הכבוד, גיא וכפיר ואייל.
Good luck, Chloe.
Thank you. Thank you.
ממש בקיץ הראשון שעבדתי, שבקייטנת צהריים פיתחתם אותה, כל הכבוד. מישהו 10 דקות ראשון מתערב. בחול, אבל לפני שנכנסנו למים. אני מסתכל עליו, אני מסתכל עליו.
תודה, גיא.
תודה לכולם, תודה שהייתם איתנו. Thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Be a great. Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.